Okay, so here today to talk a little bit about how we've built a digital team and transformed PepsiCo across our Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa sector. And I guess when I come to these events, I find it quite useful to kind of hear what other people have been doing, experimenting with playing and learning. And so we wanted to share our story to see if it can give you any tidbits, helps, advice, and would love to catch up with anyone afterwards if they've got anything useful that they could share back with us as well. So as Ian mentioned, my background, I started out in fashion e-commerce. I was kind of building my digital muscle at great companies such as Dorothy Perkins of Arcadia Group, Marks & Spencer's, and House of Fraser. And I guess what was really key there was during the late noughties and into the teenies, or whatever we want to call them, it was a massively exciting time for the UK fashion sector online. We were starting to see rapid online sales growth, and the share of sales that happened in online was growing, doubling every year. We started to see real-time data really being leveraged to build and optimize the user experience. We were driving conversion-led marketing. We could see the rate of return on our advertising spend at the click immediately. As soon as they were clicking, they were buying, and we were starting to see that come through. We really could optimize hourly to drive our sales. And there was a massive rise of content marketing. Fashion retailers were doing editorials, buying outfits, and we were starting to see the growth of social media. And some of you guys may remember that era where there was the blocking page where you made someone press follow me to enable them to see any content. It was the early days and with some really great fun as we started to experiment. And I was having a fantastic time. We were doing lots of experimentation. But then I got a call about a fantastic challenge in FMCG, and I was like, well, great, we've seen fashion, we've got data, to be able to plumb that into the fantastic brands that someone like PepsiCo has, from Walker's, Doritos, Quaker, 7-Up, the rest that you can see on the screen. There was an opportunity to look at digital transformation, blending sales, marketing, IT, and for me, most excitingly, the culture. And so I took the challenge. I was ready. I had all my fashion e-commerce muscles ready to move over and start to do that. And although they were useful, I had to start to learn how to use them differently. And I guess all I can imagine is being a swimmer, an Olympic swimmer, and trying to go to be a cyclist. You kind of got fitness, you've got the lung capacity, but actually the muscles you've been using are somewhat different. And so yes, we had rapid e-commerce growth. Yes, digital marketing was really, really critical, and we're seeing an increase in spend. But as a CPG company, you generally, historically, have a more limited data access at your grasp. And very, very rarely is that real time. You normally have to wait for your retail customers to sell it, them to package up the data and send it through. So that real-time element wasn't there. And the focus on acquisition and driving direct sale, obviously ROI is massively important, but in an FMCG, you drive that through brand marketing. The science and fantastic experience that everyone has from doing TV to become top of mind and drive sale when someone next go into the grocery store. Digital was really centered around that, and how do we start to use online channels to replicate and advance what we were doing in TV. It wasn't necessarily in-house, but there's a fantastic network of media agencies, creative agencies, and partners that can support. And it wasn't just about running a team in-house and trading it. It was about learning how to get the best from all these partners and all these different areas to drive our agenda forward. And I think the major part, going from a UK retailer to a large corporate FMCG company, is the global matrix. And I guess in a retail environment, you kind of got your hands on the wheel of the car. You can see all your data, you can make the moves, you can pull the levers whenever you need to, and then you come into an environment which is massively sophisticated, loads of great insights, loads of great people, strategic thinking. But your team that is going to deliver is not the team that sits in front of you in the 5 tables around you and you all kind of hold hands and drive forward every day. Being able to work out when you have a go yourself and when you go out and try and find expertise somewhere else in the company, in another market, in another function. It's a really, really different operating model, but added loads of extra value, but I needed to start to flex those muscles and learn how to do it. And so as we started to evolve digital, we needed to start to classically test and learn. So before I'd started, there was some fantastic leaders who'd really invested in digital, whether it be a digital marketing role, an e-commerce role, and across our sector, from Russia all the way across to the UK, we had examples of leaders banking on digital, innovating and kind of stretching ahead. But we wanted to do it in a much more choiceful way and joined up way together. So back in 2013, when I started, the UK business had decided to launch a cross-functional digital team, and I'll talk a little bit about our structure in a moment. And we really started to play about what does digital in an FMCG mean? Kind of, yes, we do marketing, and yes, we do e-commerce, but what is it that we should start to get skilled at? What is it we should start to focus on and prioritize, given the levers that we have available to us? And so we started to build this up, kind of learn and adjust as to what we needed, and quite soon we realized there was a network of digital individuals across the globe starting to do the same thing. And we were sharing best practice and learning, and then we started to realize that the amount of sharing we were doing was probably starting to get higher than the amount of new things we were doing. And we needed to trade the UK, but also share. So at the start of 2015, we launched a European and Sub-Saharan Africa digital team. And the idea is that we wanted to take what we'd found in the UK, package that up, and be able to scale that across multiple markets, really balancing those that may be less digitally mature and more digitally mature, but trying to drive transformation at scale. Year one was very much discovery mode, so we kind of had some great digital thinking across, we called it moments of brilliance. We had adrenaline rush in Russia, doing fantastic work, Pepsi Max in the UK leading the way, but what we really wanted to do was start to understand what we needed to do and where we would set our priorities. So we did a bit of a discovery tour, going around the markets and understanding what are those bets that we should be doing centrally in the sector team that would really help bring the whole organization forward, and where do we need to invest locally to enable people to be able to drive the local agenda against their business goals. And so we modeled this out and went to our president to ask for support to roll out and grow. And the good news was he kind of said, that's great. Is that ambitious enough? Come back and ask me for more. Tell me what else you need. How can you go faster? How can you go bigger? Which is a fantastic message to get when you're trying to drive change. And so we did. We came back with an ambitious goal to roll out 3 to 4 new systems across multiple markets and hire over 50 individuals over a 9-month period. He agreed to it, and then we went into 2016 building that team. And there's some other fantastic array of talent we have on the front row here today. And we started to roll out some of these systems across the sector. And I'll talk a little bit more about the team and how we're structured and what we aim to achieve at the end of last year. But now we sit here today with good foundations, and they are foundations. And I think Facebook would famously say, you are 1% complete. We definitely feel like that. And it's very, very much about embedding, accelerating, and starting to build some of this digital into the business. We're not siloed, but we definitely need to do more to embed it into the business's culture as we start to accelerate. And to do that, we place the resources, the majority of our ask, we put the resources out in the operating businesses. We don't want a team of people sitting on an ivory tower in a sector office deciding what we need to do and what's going to happen. And yes, it's really important that we're joined up. We have a common vision, a common strategy, but what we wanted to make sure we did is we had the right talent as a catalyst for change out where the work was being done. And so we have fantastic individuals driving e-commerce sales, which is primarily in Western Europe, where the e-grocery model is a lot more developed. But we're starting to see movement in Poland, Romania, and Russia, and building out our teams there. We've put digital marketing experts at all our regional teams and also in all of our local markets. Again, when someone's briefing, when they're sitting in that meeting, hearing a response from an agency, if you don't have the right mind in the room at the right moment, and not loads of training 3 months earlier, that's not going to come back to them in that moment in time. So to have those great individuals that can challenge, disrupt, and encourage people to think differently. Because the majority of the people that work in a company, or I'd say 99.99%, are unbelievably smart, great people who want to do digital. But the problem is they just haven't experienced it or know what to do, what buttons to press, and what questions to ask. So it's about having like a comrade, a consultant at their side, that we can make sure that as we grow e-commerce sales and build our brands online, that we're doing it the right way. And the other fantastic thing that I think that PepsiCo set up was to have the IT function fundamentally plumbed into the digital team. We have a unique team of up to about 20 people who are solely focused on driving systems technology for us to unlock us as the e-commerce and digital marketing team to make the best of our commercial digital potential. And all of us are woven together, as I'm sure you've heard loads through the talks today, with data, with technology, and with a real prime focus on user experience across the board. And these great people are based, over 90 of us now, over the whole of our sector of Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, really based out of the the key hubs that we have for our business. And these individuals, as I say, over 60 have probably been brought in over the last 12 months. So it's been a very, very new team. And what we've really tried to do is get a great breadth of talent experience. So we've got people who've done FMCG digital marketing before, and that's a really useful knowledge to be able to learn and grow. But we've also got people from gaming, from electronics, from media agencies, from creative agencies, in e-commerce. Every single person has worked on a retailing platform. They need credibility. They need to know what those levers are, whether it be a pure player or multi-channel. It's really, really critical that we have those skills and that we're able to use them and add value into our business. And as we've hired who we've got, we also need to pipeline. And recently, we've had a fantastic initiative in partnership with our HR team to find the new latest digital talent and insights talent out on a program called PepsiCo Go. So we're currently in the middle of a Dragon's Den style. We have our finalists. I think we're down to about 20 or 30 people who are going to be coming in for a one-year internship to have 6 months in e-commerce, 6 months in marketing, and we want to find the best talent that we can start to build up and grow into our organization. And we're very privileged. Not very often do you start a whole new function and a whole new team in such a developed business. And as a group, we've been really, really privileged to kind of build these new bonds. I'd say the first time we all get together would have been last July. And I think there were 60 to 65 of us in there. And most people had been in the business for the amount of weeks that I could count on my fingers. And all of a sudden, we were thrown together. We were kind of building bridges, building bonds, and we were kind of in it together, and it was for us to build our own culture. And I say a massive privilege that I've never had the experience of before. And what's important, and the values that we live by, is to truly be one digital team. I have folks from IT. We've got guys sitting in sales, people looking at data. We've got individuals really trying to build our brands through creative and media. But what's really, really important is our one team. I've got Lesia sitting out in the Ukraine by herself, driving the digital agenda with the markets there, and for her to have support, learnings from everything that's happening is really, really critical. So we look at it about being open, networked, and effective. And from an open perspective, it really was driving inspiration from the Larry Pages and the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world about that weekly connection. I'd spoken to peers who worked at Facebook and Google, and the power that brought to hear every single week in the fast pace of digital what's happening, what's moving forward, what's gone on, how can we kind of start to build and grow together was really, really important. And so from a very early day, every single Tuesday morning, 9:30 UK time, 10:30 CET, we have a weekly digital huddle. And I say after 9 months, we're still getting over 60 people every single week dialing in to hear an update from me on what our presidents asked us, where I've been, what I've been doing, so they can understand their role as part of our journey, but also for the team to share their best practices, their findings, getting external stimulus. The digital agenda moves so fast, and if we are joined up, we can move faster together and be more agile. So we're open, we're sharing regularly, and we need to make sure that we are networked and collaborating. And the great thing from the team is that everyone is not precious about starting the new thing themselves. Everyone loves to get a learning, to get a base, and to build their idea on top of it. And so what we really encourage everyone is to collaborate, to share what they found so that someone else can learn from it. We've got loads of lovely phrases in PepsiCo: lift and shift, lift and adapt, steal with pride. And we really, really do live and breathe that. And all we ask and we expect is that anybody who's giving effort and value and time to write up their learnings, we believe that they should, in return, get far more value back from the wealth of everybody else sharing with them. And to date, we've had no complaints that anybody's having to share too much and they're not getting the value back from the wider team. So it definitely feels like a good investment in time. And finally, being effective. Yes, we set an agenda. Yes, we want common goals. But ultimately, the guys that are running marketing in the UK, in Russia, in Romania, they know what needs to be done for digital marketing there. So we just want to fuel them to be at their best. So we'll set common agenda, have common tools, but we really, really want those guys to decide what's the right thing to roll out when and to kind of drive that with their business. And everybody, no matter where they sit, which function, we think it's really important to have a common mission and kind of knowing what we're doing. What does doing digital mean? And what we believe is that we're fueling PepsiCo's future growth, and we really focus around 5 key pillars. One, that we make sure that digital is integrated into the way of working. How can we make sure that every brief, every budget, every plan has an integrated consideration from day one, because we believe that if we're integrated, our consumers and our shoppers will feel a much more integrated experience in the end. How do we start to make sure that we're delivering the basics that it takes to win in online? So not only deciding what those basics are, but suggesting best practice, governing them, and keeping up as they start to move. When we were first doing e-grocery online, it was okay just to have an accurate image, and a product that made sure you showed up in search was like, score, I can make some sales. Now we need to have iconography, we need to have videos, we need to have products reviews, and the bar keeps moving as it does in all e-commerce channels, and we need to make sure that we're here to track that, monitor that, define best practice, and help the business to achieve it. We're also here to shape, test, and learn. And if someone says kind of digital, what do you kind of cover? And I guess most of us cover whatever PepsiCo didn't do 5 years ago. It generally comes under our remit. And so it's really important that all these new things start to come out, that we're testing and we're learning. And the word shape here for us is really, really important. So how do we make sure that we're trialing something that is going to be good, that we're going to learn from, but we're not just trialing something because it looks fun? And we often quite talk about hypothesize and learn versus test and learn, which is a bit hoi polloi, but it kind of drills into your head. What are you going to do once you've done this test? How will you scale it? How will you learn? Or just get an operational learning from it. But it's important that you know what you're going to get out of it, given what might happen, what you'll do next. And again, with our team being joined up, we critically try and scale something when it works, or fail fast and be comfortable and open to share that failure, so no one else has to go through the same thing again, and we can learn and grow together. The fourth one, leveraging data. So this is really how do we plumb the wealth of digital data into our business, whether it's social listening, whether it's e-commerce data, media responses, things that we've never had before. It's far more real time. And to do that, we've needed to invest in systems that allows us to read this big data, data science, data analytics, that maybe we haven't had to do at such a large scale before. An Excel table, pivot tables, VLOOKUPs were kind of sufficient with our two-dimensional data, or we had to brief an external agency. Now we're trying to build tools, which means we can really sweat this digital data and really drive action from it. And I guess the value is by plumbing our older traditional data into that, we're also seeing new synthesis learnings and findings from it. And underlying all of this, we're here to kind of build capability. And I think my boss called it just make PepsiCo Europe more digitally savvy, I think was the kind of brief. So how do we just start to think about the role of data and technology in our business? How do we just make our staff work a bit smarter, faster, quicker, more effective by really using tools and systems and agility, whether it be from internal comms, getting a better email template to make them more effective, through to how we share documentation and notes internally. And I guess as we've come along our journey, another lovely PepsiCo phrase is you have to perform as you transform. So it's been really, really, really critical to hit our numbers, grow market share, make sure we're getting ROI from our media. But at the same time, we've got to be building these new capabilities. And what's very apparent across a very, very large sector of multiple markets, multiple brands, multiple skills, multiple experiences in our business, is we've got a lot of different levels of digital maturity. We've got some fabulous marketing leaders who get it, who can drive it, and are starting to show some fantastic results. We've got others in other areas of our sector that just haven't been exposed to it, haven't seen it, haven't needed to see it, because their brands, their target audience, and their market maybe hasn't been maturing quite as fast online. And so we've had to really make sure that we're raising the floor and that we're raising the ceiling at the same time, because that baseline keeps moving, and we've got to keep up with it, if not be faster. But we don't want that to hit the ceiling. We've got to make sure that ceiling keeps growing, so that we're able to stay ahead and keep there. And so I thought I'd just share a couple of headlines that we've learned as a team as we've tried to drive change and instill change from a digital perspective within PepsiCo is always raising the floor. The most effective way we found to do that is, number one, get that top-down support. If you can start to drive change and get a leader to really back something that they know instinctively it's right, but they don't have to rely on those itty-bitty data points to make the call of every single penny you're going to spend. We're very, very fortunate that our president acknowledges that we're going to make an investment. We know it's the thing to do, and maybe 80, 90% will be pretty well spent, but the other 10% will learn something and will reinvest and will adjust as we go forward. And having that bravery to make that commitment is massively important as we start to move the agenda forward, knowing you've got someone who's got your back and wants us to kind of be something else. As a team, when we're talking, it's really important that we are consistent and continuously driving our digital conversation. So from that, every single person that starts in our team has a thorough induction with all members of our sector team. So I'll sit down with every single person for an hour and explain who we are, what we're doing, what we're driving. And again, likewise, the rest of my sector team will do the same. We want to make sure that all of our team are ambassadors for the same message, the same mantra, and are going after the same goal. And as our teams start to hear the same things referenced, we believe it will then start to sink in and drive change. And despite the fact that we're in digital and it's fast-moving, there is still definitely worthy of some time for some formal documentation. Now, this doesn't mean writing a 100-page Bible, putting it in a spine, printing it out, and putting it on a nice bookshelf to keep looking at for years to come, but just being smart and savvy about capturing those best practice definitions, whether it be a checklist, a kind of a must-dos, a don't forget. That there's so many things you can learn that are valuable, that will stand a bit of a test of time, that are worth the energy. And when we do those, it's not just about the theory. What we've seen is the impact of adding just a case study and some real-life examples to bring that to life, so that not only they see what to do, but they can kind of understand what that means when it comes to activating and executing that best practice. And then finally, here's what the best practice is. Here's an example of how it works. If there's just 2 things you do tomorrow, go and do these and try and start to drive that immediate nudge to kind of move the business forward. We really find that starts to help. Once you've set that best practice, it's very much about how do you govern and have the right amount of reporting that, again, is not trying to boil the ocean with numbers and reports, but so you can just keep a track that the progress is moving as you think, and you can course correct, dial up, dial down where you need to. And most importantly, celebrate success. With the things that are raising the floor, they're not going to be the thing that we'd ever consider putting up for a Cannes Lion. These are really simple little moves. But we believe by celebrating the success for an individual, these moves can be quite massive and quite a large break. And we find that those breakthrough moves for them can go on to do much more fantastic things. They tend to be a catalyst for a much bigger movement. And finally, that continually raise the ceiling. And I guess as we've looked to kind of champion some new initiatives, whether it's rolling out a new system or deploying a new best practice, it's really good to find a team to partner with who kind of have a need for change. If a brand or a customer or team or somebody is very successful, has a large market share, is trundling along nicely, the likelihood of them leaning in to do something a little bit different, they're not going to be the best people to do the initial pilot with. What we tend to find is someone who's got a new business challenge, maybe something they haven't had to tackle before, rolling out something new, a business performance has got a new dimension they've never had to have. You tend to find that the digital team is a great partner for that, to stretch people's thinking and to offer them a new solution, and generally drives that kind of slightly more risk-averse, less risk-averse mindset to partner with us and do something new. And when we're doing that partnering, it's really trying to make those 1 to 2 impacts. We can't change everything at once, but what are we really going to go after and kind of hold our hat on this change? And when we know what they are, let's try and get some stimulus to bring us together. So whether it be some strategic external relationships with our agencies, our media partners, thought leaders, how can we start to share expertise? Because as much as someone else may have a certain expertise we don't, I am quite sure there will be a company, a business out there that also wants to flex their muscles, try again, see something from a different lens. And we believe that we can be a great partner to do that. But it's not only that external lens, it's also the internal lens, and the great array of minds, whether it be ages from millennials to a more older demographic internally, different skills, different backgrounds. Again, how do we bring those cross-functional teams together to find the magic in the greys, the magic in those areas which would normally be siloed? I've talked about test and learn, think about hypothesize and learn in terms of what we try and do to make sure we're testing the right things. Scaling those lessons we learn fast. And what you tend to find after doing this is if you can generate some fame, some visibility, some acknowledgement, some senior recognition for the people who've leaned in to partner with you, I can assure the amount of more people that then start knocking at the door, wanting to do something, wanting your help. It's a really great pull factor, so you don't need to continually push to necessarily drive something through. And that is our story. So thank you very much for your time. I just want to flag that we've got also some of our great talent is at the PepsiCo stand in the back left corner of T3. And all tomorrow, they'll be doing little mini TED Talk styles about experiences. So if you're in tomorrow and want a bit more inspiration, I can thoroughly recommend that with some snacks and beverages to entertain you while you're there. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Becky. And if I compare that with your speech last year, the amount you've covered is extraordinary. Just one thing is that as everyone gets older, the role of digital as being the new kids on the block changes. And one thing that caught my mind, you're talking about the people you've got embedded around the business. What happens if I'm just a normal PepsiCo person and I want to get me some more digital, I want to get closer to it? How are you bringing in people, especially those who are digital natives, into the work you're doing?
Yeah, so what's really important is the partnership. So again, we've got digital natives and experts kind of in the business that we're employing, but the wider business, it's about them learning on the job. And so we're building lots of capability, classic training courses to get them up to speed. But what's also important is for them to flag where they're passionate, where they're interested, and we start to see those individuals who are like that, asking us to lean in, asking for help, and kind of doing the questions. So what's important to us is to build the skills with the core team. And because my digital team, the world keeps changing, and they're already pretty full. So what we want to do is get them to package up what they're doing, pass that back, start to build the knowledge and build up the core team. So as the new stuff keeps coming, the digital team has capacity to keep up with those innovations.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again to Becky. That was fantastic. Thank you.